Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings, and as you can see, I'm doing today on Madeline by Ludwig Bemelmans because I was kind of just scrolling through the internet library looking at children's books and sort of just trying to pick something that sparked a thought, and I landed on this, and it had been a very long time since I had looked at the old house in Paris that was covered with vines, in which 12 little girls lived in 2 straight lines, and the smallest one was Madeline. I say heavily editing the introduction because I believe this is the initial, original, fundamental Madeline. And Madeline is... those are books that are well beloved because they're just solid, books for very young children with a very interesting art style. So the thing about this is we have here 2 pages out of the book. I'm not going to be reciting bits, not least of which because people tend to yell at me in the comments when I recite stuff. But take a look at these. Now, these are very clearly designed with an eye to making them look like children's drawings. You look at that sun, and the sun is designed to look like something that, a 5-year-old does when you give them their poster paints. That you have these, the grass, which is, sort of impressions of grass, these white outlines where things haven't been painted in because they're sort of not, painting it rather than turning something white. You're getting white by not drawing on it. It has this deliberate effort to look childish, but to look at these 2 images of Notre Dame on the left and I don't know enough about Paris to be sure what that's supposed to be off the top of my head. I probably should, but, not off the top of my head. But you look at these 2 things, and they're heavily contrasted, but they're even more heavily but it's so lovely. It's an adult hand that is guiding this deliberate primitivism. You can see an adult behind all of the fine details of, look at the Notre Dame one where we're considering all of the just the atmospherics. He's laid down because Bemelmans didn't just write the text; he also did the art, and it's this wonderful atmospheric thing. You see Miss Clavel, the nun, with her charges as they walk across the square in front of the cathedral. You see, and they're all holding up these umbrellas, and you have the little detail of the rain dripping off Miss Clavel's umbrella. You have these lighter streaks that are the falling rain, and everything in there, it's calculated and so very powerfully evocative that a child might manage it, but at the same time, children don't know as much about creating atmosphere. It's not that a child couldn't create this, but there's deliberation in it. You look to the one on the right, and yes, you have the big sun shining in the corner, but it holds this wonderful sense of bringing you in of that contrasting warmth and lightness, not of just all this punch of color designed to specifically contrast with what we have on the left of, the heavy gray with Notre Dame being done in those browns to sort of make it pop out from the gray background. You look at the rose plant on the right, the flowers, and this is the one where Madeline gets her appendix out, and you look at the left, and it's just so frenetic and concerning and upsetting, and it's such an evocative. Evocative is a very, very important word, because this is a picture, an illustration that's really, really meant to drive home an emotional response. You have that yellow light in the sky that's probably meant to be a yellow moon, that because it's pulling it to an extent, it's contrasting with the yellow street lights and the yellow of the vines on the old house where Miss Clavel lives with her charges. And it sort of pulls the eye up, but it's also that it's a very dramatic color for a moon, and so it really sharpens the concerning nature of the moment. It makes it feel darker. And then when you look at the overpage, where Madeline wakes up in hospital in this clean white room with these flowers, and it's just, the flowers are really, really pretty, very deliberately pretty, and contrasting again so sharply with the previous page, which is all scribbles and darkness. And again, it's just such wonderful art illustrations. And we will go to, of course, the final page of the book, because I happen to love this, because I have always loved that. "Good night, little girls. Thank the Lord you are well. And now go to sleep," said Miss Clavel. I've always loved that bit from Miss Clavel of, "You guys are kicking up a huge stink because you want to get presents and ice cream. Well, tough luck. Now go to sleep." Because at the end of the book is Miss Clavel waking up to hear all of the girls sobbing, and she asks them what's wrong, and them having visited Madeline at the hospital, and Madeline gets like a cool scar and like balloons and flowers, and it's really cool, and so they all want to have their appendices out as well, because they want to get flowers and cool scars and things, because that's cool. And I kind of, it's a very, parent taking care of children who know not what they ask moment, that moment when children want things that are perhaps not as good for them as those children think they are, because the children don't quite understand that having an appendix about to burst is actually an incredibly bad thing. But no, I've always loved "And now go to sleep," said Miss Clavel. And she turned out the light and closed the door, and that's all there is. There isn't any more. I love the verse in this because it's so simple but effective. And yellow is a muchly used color actually in this book. It's not just, as we saw before, that we have the yellow moon. It's that the old house in Paris covered in vines is yellow. Most of the events that go on in this book that are not meant to be dramatically evocative are in yellow. It's a heavily emphasized color, and I suspect because it's meant to sort of be cheerful, but at the same time provide a background, as you can see here, that it perks things up, keeps it from being monochromatic and dull, but if you do that in blue, then it's going to look very, very different. So yellow, very calculated color choice. It's just, I enjoy these books, and I enjoy the art in these books, and as I said, I enjoy that way that it's meant to make you look at these and think of children's drawings, but they're so wonderful and calculated that one sort of has the impression that a child almost definitely couldn't have done it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say on Madeline. It's a very, very fond memory for me, these books. But yeah, I think I'm out of stuff to say, so I guess that's everything, and I will see you all next week.